I'm Tammy Gaudette, and my partner in crime is Jennifer Sears, and we are the math district people to help you in any way math related. So what, either unmute yourself, doesn't matter, or in the chat, what are some number sense routines you've tried this year?
Oh, can I just talk?
Of course you can.
Oh yeah, well, we do like a math fluency games and just numbers in sequence. I teach first grade, so we do a lot of number sequence and counting up and backwards. We make a little team and just compete it in small groups. Sometimes we do it as a whole group. I present it on the slides and kids practice place value or number sequence and addition even.
Yeah, no, I've done some math games. I've done, yeah, you're right, just a lot of different number sequences. Jen and I are actually getting our math recovery specialist right now. So we're working with first graders, trying to help them move forward. So you'll notice a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'm so excited, yeah, because it relates to my kiddo. So go ahead and we're gonna get started on our actual routine. Maybe. Hey.
Good to see you. All right, and you do remind me again what grade level you are? Fifth grade? Okay. All right. So what we have today is something that could work just as easily with, a kinder and first grade students all the way up to fifth grade. And it's all about the idea of something that is the same about a particular image or something that is different about a particular image. And so this routine, as you can tell from the title, same but different. So inside how it gets started is you're going to be showing 2 images to your students. They're going to be thinking about what is the same, what is different. Maybe for first graders, Mick Young, is that how you say your name?
Yes, you're correct, Mick Young.
So maybe for first graders, you might have to be typing in that idea of same and different as they're verbalizing that. But your fifth grade students should be able to type that information inside of the chat. And how they're going to do that is through a chat waterfall. So they're either going to write the word same to indicate what the statement is of the 2 images and how they are the same, or they're going to write the word different and they're going to put in why it's different, why they noticed or what they noticed about it being different. So then alongside that, we're going to actually, as a teacher, you're the one that's selecting the students, identifying them based on whatever goals you already have in mind for the conversation. You're going to see coming up, we're going to do a third grade example. So I already have some ideas in mind about what I want to come out of that discussion, but you're going to kind of like steer that discussion to those areas or those points that you want aligned in your math goals. And you yourself, as the facilitator, are typing into the template. What are those ideas that are same? What are those that are different? We can either grab them from the chat, or as I mentioned before, to Mick Young, you could have the kids telling you this and you're typing it into the template for them. Then you're going to actually have them talk about that. Like you're going to ask them to expand upon that information. Try to see if they can describe what they're noticing, what they're pulling out that is the same or different. And then finally, one of the things that I really like about this routine is that in such isolation that we've had in our online environment, sometimes our kids don't get seen or heard as much as they should. And so this last part of it is more of a recognizing and a connecting. So did they hear or did they see their statement come out somewhere in the discussion, or somewhere was it evidenced in them, talking about their strategy? Did they get to be seen or heard? And we have a couple of different tools that you can use to be able to do that in this discussion. So we're excited to try that out with you. So are you ready to get started?
Yes.
All right. So you can see I'm actually on the slide on number 5. We just gave you guys view only to that slide today. But as a teacher, you would be editing this particular slide based upon what's happening inside of the chat. So I'm going to ask you to look at those 2 images. I shouldn't say objects. Look at those 2 images on the screen. And Don't type it in. Don't type necessarily it in yet, because I'm going to ask you guys, we're going to do a chat waterfall so we see all of them at the same time. But start thinking about, what do you notice that's already the same? And what do you notice about them that is different? And I want you to preface in the chat, before we're going to have to send it, we're going to say either same, like have your word same, and then your statement that is the same about the two items, and then different, and then what is different about them. And you can do them in 2 separate chats, or you can do them all in one chat. All right, so you guys got an idea of what you're going to need? I'm going to give you a few more seconds wait time. Think about what's the same, what is different, what do you notice? You should be typing those into the chat. And there's only 2 of us, so or two participants, and I'm sure Tammy's going to participate with us too. But you'll get the idea. It goes a lot more when you have a lot more students participating to this. All right, send me your stuff in the chat. Tell me what is the same or what is different. All right, let's see. So I have something from Yadira and Tammy. Let's see. So same. I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm doing is I'm actually physically copying this statement from inside of the chat, just so you kind of have a window to what I'm doing. And I'm going to paste it there onto that template. Okay, so Yadira, I noticed that you talked about the same being that each of the images both represent a fourth of a fraction. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh, now I see it actually.
Oh, okay.
I was looking at the one being different, a different color out of the 4, and then I saw that they jumped 1 time to the 4th. Okay,
so that they're the same in terms of, you're talking about like it being a 4th. So I'm actually going to go into the PowerPoint, and what I like to do here is, I don't know if you guys have ever used the Scribble tool. So you can go inside of your PowerPoint when you're in Google Slides, go into your Scribble tool, and I could physically kind of talk about what was that area that you were kind of mentioning. And I think you were talking about this area right in here. So let me get a color so that you can see what color I'm putting in there. It's not really working very well for me today. But you were kind of talking about that little area there, that it's representing a 4th. Am I correct? And then also you're kind of seeing this similar area that's down here, also within there being a 4th. Okay, so you're kind of bringing that idea, that information out to them, as well as kind of evidencing that through what you're putting into the PowerPoint as well, to kind of visualize that for the kids and their learning and their thinking. All right, Tammy, tell me a little bit more. Tammy mentioned that the same is that they both have a hole. So tell me a little bit more about that.
What I looked at is, I looked at the top one and noticed that it had 4 pieces. So I'm looking at that, that's one whole, all 4 pieces. And when I looked at the bottom one, I noticed it started at 0, ended at 1. So that is also a whole. It just looks different, but in the whole aspects of it, even though it's force, we're looking at the whole piece as well.
Okay. So we have a whole in terms of looking at that particular image. You see the whole being, it's represented there, but even though there is a piece that is missing there, you can still see that there is a whole object there. And then kind of down there on the bottom where you notice that it starts from 0 and it goes to 1, that's also a whole of some representation out of the pieces of the whole. Okay, did I express that correctly, Tammy? Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look. Let me see, McYoung. So you also talked about that there are 4 equal parts. Talk to me a little bit about that. How do we know they are equal?
Yeah, I saw the top, the circle, and it looks like it's cut into 4 parts, and
okay.
they all look the same size to me, each little individual piece. And the bottom one, I saw a line, and the line has the little tick marks, and then I kind of count 1, 2, 3, 4 parts are kind of represented on the line.
It's very, very interesting that you mentioned the tick marks and this whole idea of equality, because that's sometimes a conversation that we have to have with our kiddos is, are we counting the space in between the tick marks, or are we counting the tick marks? And how do we know that those spaces are, equal because of the way that they're cut? So yes, in this particular instance, you said you did see some tick marks, but you were more counting, it sounded like, the spaces in between those tick marks, and those were equal pieces of each of those intervals in that section. So very, very interesting, and kind of talking about, how you pulled that out. You were able to pull out some different concepts about it actually being equal as well. All right, so let's talk about what's different. So I'm looking around, and again, I kind of want to always just look in the chat, see if there is different ideas in here. And Tammy, tell me a little bit about your idea that you said one is an area model and one is a number line. Talk to me about that. What are you noticing about that?
So I looked the pie graph, pizza pie. I always think of that as an area model, just one way to show an area model. And then the other one looked to me like a number line, and but it was only showing 1/4 of that number line, where the first one actually to me showed 3/4. But so they're actually, I saw 2 differences.
You didn't mention that, but that is true. That is another difference in that, and it's not mentioned there in the chat, but yes, that there is an area model on the top. And actually, if you're looking at that area model, what you saw was not really 1/4. You saw 3/4 of it being shaded. And on the bottom, if we really looked at what piece, if we were talking about shaded pieces, if we were talking about the bottom piece of the image, what would we actually say was shaded on the bottom number line? Was it 3/4 or was it 1/4? So kind of 1/4. Yeah, so 3/4, I'm just going to put on there 3/4 shaded, even though it's not mentioned in our chat, versus 1/4 shaded. And I'm going to put it on the bottom.
Well, as anything that happens in a discussion, things pop up. And in me, I'm thinking this lot of stuff will happen and that won't be in the chat, but as they're thinking about it, more things will pop up that we might need to add to this too.
Yeah. And I'm kind of wondering, Mick Young, was that sort of your idea too, the idea that one is a line and the other is a shape? Were you thinking about the different representations?
Yeah, I was thinking they just look different from each other, and I knew one is the line, and then I didn't quite know it's an area model. Yeah, I think it's area. The shape is kind of going up and across, so it's more like, I don't know, 2D type.
Yeah. So yeah, we have two different representations here, so just pulling out, not necessarily that you knew that was an area model, but that might be one of my math aligned goals that I really wanted to make sure my kids understand today, is that, this representation is showing me an area model. And because I want to show multiple representations to my students, this section is actually showing me a number line is an interval model, or a linear model, as some other folks may call it. So I want to make sure I'm showing that and also kind of representing what they might be seeing, which is same and different. All right, I'm not seeing any other ideas there in the chat, but let's ask really quick. Was there anything else that you noticed that was the same or that was different?
A difference. The bottom is showing actual numbers, fractions, where the top is not showing anything.
Okay, so there
at least the numerals and numbers.
So I'm going to put there is fraction notation.
Thank you.
And then I do also want to point out that you did say sort of a similarity there too, and that they are both fractions. we know they're talking about fractions here. We're not talking about, let's say, actual numbers, you know, particular like whole numbers. I do see a whole number of 1 down there, but we're talking specifically about their both fractions that are on there. All right, Yadira, you said the denominators at the bottom are different. Woo! That's a new one. I hadn't seen that one, but talk to us about that, because you're right. I didn't notice that one particular one is different than the other two. Talk to me about that. What do you see?
I see that the fractions didn't go like 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, or 1 whole. So they just put an equivalent fraction for half instead of putting 2/4.
All right. So I don't know, Tammy, I think I somehow erased that one little section. Maybe you'll grab it for me too. But yes, that's the first time I'm actually noticing that. Let me scribble that out and kind of show what I'm talking about there. Because I absolutely, I agree with that that is something that I had not noticed before, that the actual numbers are different. So Yadira, great point out on that. That we actually have a different one. How do we know that half is really a part of a fourth? We could have a huge talk about that equivalency and that idea of how do we know that a half is also a fourth, and what equivalent to a fourth is it? Is it a 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, whatever it may be that it could be housed in there? Perfect. Ooh, that's exciting to me. That was a different one that I hadn't seen lately. All right, so here we come to the last portion of if you look at the template, where we talk about recognizing and connecting. And I'm not a knower of how to do emojis in the chat, but maybe you guys have been doing this quite a lot longer than we have been doing this, and you know how to put an emoji in the chat. But if you don't know how to do that, another sure way to do this, and a low-tech way that could be done, and just a neat way that could be done, is a low-tech way could be, that students go ahead and put a thumb up on their chest if they had their strategy evidenced or brought out in our conversation. Or another way we also like to do it is just go ahead and raise your hand. So inside your meet, you could just raise your hand. Was your strategy talked about today? Did we connect with something, to an idea that you evidenced or you had? Go ahead and raise your hand if your idea was connected with today. And I hope everybody can raise their hand, because I did talk to you guys about all your different ones. Tammy went ahead and was the only one raised her hand. So hopefully you guys. All right. So, but I love that part about it, that you do recognize they get seen, they get heard. They have that opportunity to have that recognition that they were, contributing to the conversation, to the discussion that they did here, their thoughts and their thinking. All right. So on slide 6. We are always asking, how can we adapt these routines for a hybrid setting? Some of you might already be in classrooms with kiddos right now in this hybrid setting. What are some ideas that you have in terms of how we can do this routine in a hybrid setting? And if you don't have any right now, we might have some for you. But go ahead and unmute, and since it's such a small group, go ahead and unmute and let us know what could be some ways you could adapt this routine.
I have one idea, because I thought about it as you were doing it. This could be one that you're running on your Promethean board, and your kids that are with you are sitting, watching, and participating either on whiteboards, like they're writing their own ideas on there, where the kids at home will do their chat waterfall, or drawing themselves a picture on something. And what they do is, when you ask them for the waterfall, they can either put it at their camera and hold it up. And then what happens is, as you're discussing it, they can unmute, mute, based upon what they're needing. But I could see kids in person doing this, and the kids in the picture, because I've seen it done where they've had whatever they're presenting, their Promethean board, they have that presented through their online, and they have a picture of the kids online. So the kids that are in person can see the computer screen, and the kids that are at home are seeing the kids in person. So they're able to kind of see each other by looking at the two different devices, and then they're also able to participate together. So I could
Great
see this
idea.
be a total simultaneous where at home and in person are working together.
Anyone else have any ideas on how you could do it?
I mean, you could do it like if they're hybrid, it's the same thing. I mean, for 5th grade, because I'm only going to have 4 in my classroom. I only have a group of 12. And today we actually tried one of the activities, an estimation activity.
Ooh.
And they were confused at the beginning. They didn't know what to do, but after explaining it to them and going through it with them, they were even more willing to chat in the chat box. So they were like chatting more. They weren't unmuting, but they were chatting more, and then they would ask each other questions through the chat. So I thought that was something interesting. Usually all they do is provide me answers. They don't necessarily ask questions, and I like that they were asking questions and asking their friends, well, what do you say that's the answer? Does it follow the rule of, is it divisible by 3?
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I was thinking kind of, rather than having it done a whole group, maybe have it done in a small group. And it could also be a station that they rotate throughout the day. You never know. You might, be able to mix groups from those who are online and those who are there in person with you. And as the other kids are rotating through those other stations, you're working with that specific group of kids. Because again, you have these ideas identified in terms of the math of what you wanted them to be kind of hopefully bringing out in that similarity. And I think that would lend to those conversations, Yadira, as they get further in, because then they're going to be like, oh yeah, you know what? I noticed it wasn't divisible by 3. Is that same or is that different? No, I don't know. But I think you can pull it in.
Yeah, I was thinking of incorporating it, having maybe the kids that are online, like go to a separate breakout room and then having them collaborate on their own, like Google slide. And then having the kids that are sitting in the classroom collaborate on their own, and then bring them both together and see what they came up with, see if they came up with the same ideas instead of, kind of it being intimidating where they're all together and, there's always the same kids talk and the same kids don't do the work. They just sit there and listen. So I was thinking this would be a great idea, is to separate them into breakout rooms and see what they come up with. They might come up with totally different things, or they might come up with the same exact thing, but just to have equity of voice for all of them.
No, I totally love that idea of breakout, and then also having them have their own Google slide to you don't as a teacher have to facilitate it and put it in. They are coming up with that information on their own. So great point. Great idea.
So moving into those great ideas, we are having some more of these throughout the month. They're all different. None of them are being repeated. I think tomorrow's is estimation 180, another estimation 1. Then we have one that has actually gotten some big raves, 2 truths and a lie. And we're building at this time open, middle, and
Would you rather?
Would you rather? So we're working on those, and hopefully you can help spread the word, and also feel free to come. It's the same meet code every time, but no, they're going to be different strategies, and they're all make and take, so you'll be able to take away with some ideas that day.
So I've added the flyer in there for them too, if they want to share with their pals. And I also, I'm going to add in there the YouTube channel too, because if you missed it, if you have fear of missing out of these wonderful activities that we've done, we do have a playlist that you could go back and see some of these routines as well. You may not get the make and take, but you can certainly email us for that information to be able to get that as well.
And as always, we always do what a takeaway, because then that gives us our own personal reflection time in the chat. If you'll go ahead and just put something that you're going to take away from today. Or unmute and talk.
We're good with that too. We're such an intimate setting here. We all know each other now.
Yeah, I really like the, I don't know, like the idea of connecting these routines to what we're teaching in that day. Like you mentioned that students get to see, notice things, and I mean, in first grade, they're gonna talk, I guess, more than they, type in the chat box. And then like that routine, I guess I could really, align it to the goals that I'm teaching for the day. And then I can really build on, the students' ideas that way. I think it's going to be a really good, at the end of at the beginning of the lesson, like we're kind of there trying to introduce this, making connections to.
No, yeah, it's totally a way to get them just start a warm up, get them start thinking, open their brains where they're not so narrow minded, that they're actually thinking other ways out there. That's perfect. Yes.
Nick Young, I was going to say that it's pretty much this kind of an activity is very accessible to all kids because, there is no right or wrong answer. How can you say that that's not the same or that's not different? You can come up with all kinds of things. They could have said, hey, one has red on top, one has green on bottom. And that would have been okay with something, saying same or different. It's at their level and they can come in with whatever responses they have. So totally like these routines for that accessibility to all students.
I really think this could be applied to like any other subjects too, not just math, like ELA. Like I can kind of, today we talked about different memorials in Washington, D.C. Like we have a White House and the Congress, the Capitol. And then we can talk about that maybe too.
You could even talk about the shapes, like the White House and what shape it has, and then you have the Pentagon has a different shape. And I'm going there with math, but the
What I take away, I guess, looking at this here is not able to talk anymore at this time. I was looking at it and I was thinking how less intimidating it would be that it doesn't have a right answer.
Yeah,
it is up to what you know and what what kind of knowledge you have, you bring, and there's not a right answer. So it's not like, oh, she won and I didn't. It's everybody puts in a little bit different. Because a lot of the times, a lot of my kids are afraid of making a mistake because they want to be in the winning team.
Yeah, and we want to make math more not about getting the answer. It's more about the thinking and the curiosity and the building of that idea. Because so many kids are afraid of that it's all about the answer. And no, it's really about the strategies and the thinking and how you come about that, getting that answer. And it should be, that's the way math should be, not about right or wrong to me.
Yeah. All right, so one last thing. If you go in your slides to slide 9, it says make and take. If you click on the actual name, make and take, it will take you to a folder that says same but different. Once you pop into that folder, you'll notice we have a resources. The first one is the directions, if you would like to have a little bit of just what this is about. The second one is the template we used. The folder, though, if you click into the folder, it just gives you a plethora of different things you could use. So you can just grab it, put it in the template, and use it tomorrow. All right, so we wanted to make sure that you had all that, and it was right there for you. And again, if you need anything, our names and emails are on the last slide, so please feel free to contact us. And have a great day, ladies.
We'll be doing this again tomorrow at 8 if you want to join us.
Estimation lady.
We'll plop it in the chats before that so you guys have that information. But thanks for joining us.